Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, today I have 20 minutes of gameplay for Star Wars Outlaw, the first ever gameplay of this kind for this game. We're gonna be going through the open world, doing some missions, explaining how this game works. Thank you so much to Ubisoft for sponsoring this video, and if you're liking what you've seen, you can pre-order the game now by clicking the link in the description down below. Star Wars Outlaws is available on August 30th with early access on August 27th for the premium editions. First of all, what we're doing in the very first minute of this video, you already know, is going out to our first look at the open world. This is the first moment in the preview build where we actually hopped on a speeder bike and we went out and just were able to explore the world. The way they describe this game is the first ever open world Star Wars game with unprecedented levels of depth and variety. You can basically explore planets on speeder bike, on foot, fly seamlessly from surface to space, explore space, fight in space, participate in mini games and side activities and more. And we're gonna be taking a look at basically all of that in this video, starting with this little random jump I found, and then I accidentally went over and found some wildlife and was still learning the controls. I kid you not, this was literally a couple seconds into the playthrough and I still didn't know what did what, and you're gonna see what accidentally went down here. There is a reaction from these things. You can tell any game how it's gonna be by the interactions with the animals and everything, and as you can see, very great first interaction. Wonderful. I did not mean to do that, Bam, cut the footage. So after bullying the local wildlife, I got into my very first firefight when essentially these guys on speeder bikes tried to mug me and I took off running and they really just followed me basically the entire time. We were in Imperial territory here and I thought it was safe enough to just hop off and absolutely blast them with the new system that essentially allows you to slow down time, mark the enemies you want to kill, and then execute, an executing maneuver, in which I did very, very quickly, killed both of them, and then we were able to hop back on our speeder bike and continue into the city. Now, when you get into the city, there's a ton of people around. They all have side conversations and stuff. There are certain people you could talk to. I found Imperial soldiers that were willing to clear my bounty if I was willing to pay them. All different walks of things, including my favorite thing in the entire world. We had Gamba. Immediately upon walking in, we had stats around the different things that were racing. We could put as much money as we wanted on, and I immediately proceeded to lose a lot of money. So after I finally got a win and got some of my money back, I continued farther on into the city where I was stopped by a stormtrooper who wanted some identification. Luckily, the stuff we had on us was good enough and to kind of set the stage for what we're doing here. We essentially need money and parts to repair our ship that we stole. Now, basically the lore behind why we stole the ship, everything like that had already been completed in the playthrough. We were kind of flying blind here on why the ship was so important, but everyone wanted to know about the ship. So we made our way over to this cantina where we heard one of the underworld bosses was actually hanging out at. We snuck into the room, he noticed that we were there, and we gave the name of someone who had told us to go see him, and obviously this did not go very well. He was not a fan of the man that we met on our ship and immediately kicked us out, but not before we stole his ring. After we went back down, there was a character named Danica who essentially gave us the rundown of how this city works. There are several organizations, there are crime organizations all throughout the underworld, and if you do something to help one of them, you're gonna piss the other ones off. You can try to play both sides, but essentially in this game, everything is based on reputation. You will be actively found and killed if you have a really bad reputation with some of the organizations, but if other ones like you, they'll let you in, they'll give you free stuff. Basically, it is just up to you to balance who you wanna be friends with, who you wanna go into with your playthrough, and each one of your decisions actually matters for your playthrough and how you're going to accomplish different missions, which is essentially what we're doing for the very first one. Upon leaving the cantina, we actually got a job to infiltrate the guy's base who was just in the cantina. He had a massive underworld base inside of this city that essentially it was up to us to sneak into and accomplish some work for the buyer, which was essentially to delete some data. Now, this is the very first time that we got into some stealth gameplay in this. I was essentially using our cute little buddy here to distract some things. He was playing dead and I would go over, sneak around, and try to knock people out without being seen. And this was the first time I was actually truly introduced to Nix and just how useful he would be. He would go disable alarms, he would disable security systems, he would actually help you in melee hand-to-hand combat, and as I would find out later, he could even do things like running up to a soldier, pulling the pin on his grenade, and blowing up an entire group of people talking. This little guy is absolutely insane. He is incredible, and he helped me essentially get into the deeper levels of this base, which resides underneath the city. After scoping it out for a minute, I saw the room I needed to go to, and it was time to get to work on the stealth part. So starting off with the binoculars and the grapple hook, there is a ton of equipment that I was able to use in this playthrough, including grenades, a splicing tool to get into computers, a lockpick to get into lock boxes, and then of course the most useful tool at all, Nyx. Nyx could do absolutely everything under the sun, and you're gonna see a lot of that here. Here was my very first melee knockout. Felt absolutely great, didn't feel bad about it at all. Basically was stealing all the way through, and I saw this vent here and sent Nyx to actually go open it up. And this is where I kind of realized, like, all the missions, you have multiple ways you can go through. There's tons of different ways to do it, and especially in some later missions, man, there's a million different ways to take on each room. I am not beating the beating up innocent things allegations here. Absolutely had to take out this droid, or try to. It was actually pretty friendly though, and Nyx liked it, so I decided not to take it out. Found this person walking around and patrolling the area. Again, took him out with Nyx here at using the assist. Nyx will essentially help out if he's close by, or you can send him out to actually distract different things, disable alarm bots, and I was essentially doing this all the way through till I made it to the energy gates. And upon making it here, I saw these wires coming out from it, and I knew that I was basically very, very close, but I had to use Nyx and, you know, maneuver my way over there to actually finish this level and get into that room. As you can see, Nyx actually just nabbed some loot off this guy, brought it back to me, which was absolutely incredible. And he actually noticed that it was gone and started looking around for Nyx, which I did not like at all, and immediately started blasting it. Noticed that I had nowhere to run because the barrier was disabled, and started blasting. Obviously, this is the base version of the blaster. You're gonna see a lot more versions in some other gameplay later in this video, and in the next video I'll be posting on this game. But essentially, as I was working through, I found these things that you could actually trigger detonations with Nyx. Little cute guy will slide down ladders. It's very dynamic how he actually moves around the area, which I loved. Essentially, when you're in place and when you're ready, you can click LB a couple times and that will actually activate it. He'll hear something going off. People will be drawn to it, and it'll kill multiple. Although it did alert someone, I was able to take them out pretty darn quickly and was able to continue on into the base right before he triggered the alarm. That was the #1 thing I realized you had to do in this, was make sure people are not calling the alarm, because at that point, so many reinforcements would come. This game was actually decently difficult. It's not just like a walk in the park. The AI will actually hunt you down, make sure that you are dead, and you die in a couple bullets if you're playing stupidly, which made the stealth feel really, really useful and good. And as you can see, it finally made our way behind this door. First try, 100%. My editor did not cut out when I was messing up that lockpick there, because I didn't know how to do it just yet. Made our way in and got noticed by a couple people inside. Was able to run around, melee all the people, and then head upstairs. And essentially, what happened upstairs is I was in the room of the person who I had just talked to, who I was trying to become friends with. I had just killed a bunch of his dudes and broken into his base. But what I found here was very, very interesting. After splicing into this terminal, I found out that there's someone behind the scenes who was actually planning with the governor of the city to overthrow him. And once I found this out, there was much, much more important things at stake, and I decided to go back to the original guy and ask him what was going on. But of course, as soon as I found out the information, the alarm sounded and people started busting in, and I had to essentially fight my way out of here. And this began a long chase sequence. I saw people using different abilities. They had these little portable cover shields that they were using, and I was able to pick up rifles off the ground to actually use to bust out. Upon exiting, I was greeted with my very first parkour section, which essentially allowed me to traverse up the elevator shaft, trying to find my way out into the city. It was a long climb, but we made it out and then worked my way through the tunnels. This is what the tunnel system looks like. I'm essentially just trying to show you guys all of the details about this game as possible. Made our way into the room, which was essentially a weapons storage, which, crazy enough, would have actually been available to me, and I could have just come in here for free if I had made friends with everyone first, but basically, I had to fight my way out because I was on very bad reputation. Picked up this blaster rifle, and it was the very first time I got to try out another weapon in the game. The way these work is essentially they are weapons that you pick up, and you're able to fight with them until they run out of ammo. It was a really, really cool system, and basically made the fights feel really, really dynamic. Continued escaping out. Again, grapple hook usage to get out of the city, and worked my way all the way till I was on the countryside. After a few more parkour sections and a few more jumps, I I actually found myself back at the main gate of the city, which was great because I was essentially gonna go take a massive risk by telling the guy whose base I just broke into, and he knows someone was in there. I went over to tell him that I had just somehow learned about a traitor in his midst. Luckily, the gamble paid off, and he was actually appreciative of the information, even though it wasn't the absolute optimal way to be in his good favor, because again, he knows about the traitor now, but he also knows that you shot up his base, so it didn't work quite as well as you expected to, but this is where the really interesting part comes in. Now, here we are back again talking to Gorak, but this time we are in good standings with these people. This is actually an alternate save file where through the criminal undersystem, I am in good standings with Gorak and he trusts me. He lets me know that he knows about a traitor in his midst, but he does not know how to find them and he needs our help, and he will reward us handsomely if we figure it out. So upon going throughout the city, we actually come upon someone who is talking on a comm link, and we overhear their conversation and are able to figure out this is person who is in leagues with the person we are trying to find. Through this conversation that we overhear, we learn that it is indeed Tizlak, except this time we figured it out in a completely different way, which I thought was really cool of the game. We essentially heard the conversation and we decided to go ahead and steal the comms link to trace it back, again using our trusty buddy Nyx. Guess what? Nyx can pickpocket just about anything. So we send Nyx over, click LB to complete the heist here. Nyx steals it. Looking around, she cannot find Nyx at all, and I grab the comm link from him, get some free credits on the way, and buzz in to let him know. So at this point, we know exactly where Tizlak is. We go over to enter our ship, and we're about to get our first ever gameplay up in space of this game, which I am incredibly excited to show you guys. It was a really cool sequence of taking off that I'll let you guys appreciate here. But we are headed to confront Tizlak, and by confront Tizlak, I don't necessarily mean kill him or bring him in or do what Gorak says, because we can do that, sure, but like I said, Tizlak is working with another organization. Everything you do in this game is a choice that is going to affect your reputation with everyone, and we are going to have that choice to screw over Tizlak or screw over the guy who literally hired us for the job and essentially team up with Tizlak, which I just, again, absolutely love. So upon entering space, there's a couple different things that I would like to note about this. There is a basically normal cruising speed. There is a boost speed, which you see me using here, which allows you to absolutely cook. At this point in the playthrough, we had lasers, but no missiles. We actually got a later save later on that essentially allowed us to have missiles. We initiate landings whenever we get close to things. There's a ton of different environments that you can fly through. Anyway, we initiated landing on this little space station lander thing where we know Tizlak actually is, and we immediately get out of our ship and head into the city for some interrogation. So upon making our way through the space station, we found this grungy bar where we saw a prompt to actually interrogate the bartender. I just really thought the bar was really cool. There was like a band playing in the back with like a robot drummer. There were people at the bar having conversations you could listen in on, but we decided to go straight for the bartender and question. But she wasn't being too cooperative. She knew exactly who we were talking about, but she was not interested in helping us unless there was a little bribery going on. So swiftly paid that. She said she forgot her employee access code and she needed the door open, and we slipped in absolutely without having to draw our blaster at all. Cost us 150 credits, but not to be worried at all. We found a document in one of the last safe houses we were in, essentially detailing who was gonna win the next race because it was rigged, so we were just gonna make it all back gambling because we had the guaranteed winner. Anyway, made it down into this area. No one was attacking me. No one was any the wiser because they just thought we were an employee. We ended up finding Tizlak in the back area and confronting him. So immediately upon finding him and confronting him, blaster in hand, he immediately scrambled and said Crimson Dawn was who he was working with, another one of the underworld organizations, and they could actually pay us double what Gorak was paying us if we did not work with Gorak anymore. We did not turn him in, and we actually worked to backstab Gorak. We did not mess with this though. We had the option to essentially backstab Gorak, go with Tizlak, but we decided to keep true to our word, increasing our reputation with the Pikes, who Gorak's leads, and we brought him back to Gorak. Except immediately he called for help and everyone in the entire facility started attacking us. Those two guards at the door, yeah, they immediately ran in and they were the toughest enemies I've had to fight yet, just in terms of how tanky they were. I saw that it was actually real. Like, some people, if they didn't have armor on, were dying in like 1 or 2 hits. These guys with actual armor were taking multiple shots to take down. We took out both of the guards, went back to Tizlak, and at that point, the jig was actually seriously up. At this point, we threatened Gorak. He did not call anyone else. We took him back to the ship, stored him there, and it was time to go ahead and fly back to the beautiful, beautiful city we were just at. Again, these takeoff animations are so clean. I absolutely love it. However, immediately upon leaving, we were greeted with a squadron of 3 fighters who were not happy about what we just did. And I'm telling you, every single thing you do in this game matters. Sometimes even if you take out 1 or 2 soldiers who are attacking you, your reputation will go down with certain syndicates. You have to manage your relationships with all of these syndicates so well. But this was the first gameplay that I had of using the ship in space. It was so cool. I literally cannot believe how much fun doing this was. There was one kind of like auto cannon where you held down the button, it would automatically shoot at the nearest enemy. There were lock-on missiles. There were regular kind of like just ion lasers. The missiles absolutely clapped, and we were able to take out everything with relative ease. Again, there's stuff to do in space. All of these question marks and things that are flying around, we can actually get to those. Like, those are all like rumors, objectives, things you can do, things you can find in space. I just absolutely love being able to fly around the surface. Like, spaceflight felt really, really good. It felt very satisfying, and it really felt like you were landing on these planets whenever you did. It was amazing. Exiting the atmosphere, we arrived right back on the planet, went ahead and docked up, and we were able to go to Gorak to see what exactly the repercussions and the rewards of doing this for him were. We let Gorak know that we had his trader on the ship. He was absolutely ecstatic, paid us 500 credits. Our reputation skyrocketed. Obviously, our reputation with Crimson Dawn took an absolutely massive hit, so we were definitely choosing sides here. Not that it was too late to go ahead and switch up and become a Crimson Dawn agent, but we were definitely on our way to being in with the Pikes, which brought some good stuff, but also some bad stuff as well. He left a gift on our ship. We were able to complete the mission, and that was the end of this section of the playtest. However, I have another one for you guys. Tomorrow, we're gonna be uploading more footage, more missions, and this one we're actually invading an Imperial spaceship. It is going to be insane. I cannot wait for it. Again, thank you so much again to Ubisoft for sponsoring today's video. If you guys would like to check out the game, early access on August 27th with the full game on August 30th. If you get the premium editions, you can play early. Pre-order is available now in the description down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys tomorrow with more footage.